Hey everyone, this is Spacetown. As you can see, this isn't a track breakdown. I'm still working on that. Unfortunately, the whole house got sick over the last couple of weeks, so we've all been kind of under the weather, but we are just now recovering to the point where we can do things again. And so if you're wondering why there haven't been any new videos recently, that's been it. So now that we're all basically back to normal, I'm gonna start making more videos again. And so one of the things that I wanted to do is get into the shorts game because YouTube apparently really likes shorts. But, you know, I'm not trying to get into shorts just for its own sake, just for engagement's sake. I want to do something that I think will fit the format. And so one of the things that I've been toying with and playing around with for the last couple of months, actually, is the idea of making tiny patterns or making tiny patches on both the M8 and my little lemon drop here. On the M8, I've been toying with the idea of like making a short for a pattern. So like one of those individual pattern chains on one of my TECHNO sets, just, you know, make a really quick video about it. Or the process of making one of these pads on the lemon drop, but I couldn't really figure out an organic way to do that. That didn't feel like I was just making shorts for the sake of engagement until I thought about maybe tying it with something that I'm also interested in, which is tarot. And so these are my two tarot decks that I have right now. I have been into tarot the last couple of years, I'd say. I want to talk about why I like it and my relationship with it before I get into what these shorts are going to be, because I think it's worth going into and explaining what the concept of tarot is and what I find interesting about it. First off, just a really quick overview of what tarot is. Tarot is a set of cards. I think it's 78 cards in the standard tarot deck, and they were traditionally used as playing cards. So it would be kind of like a standard set of playing cards, so 4 suits, and then there are 10 numbered cards, and then 4 face cards in each suit, right? So you have, in tarot, instead of like hearts and spades and stuff like that, in tarot you have cups, wands, swords, and pentacles. Each one of those suits has 1 to 10, and then there are 4 face cards in each of those suits. Each one of those cards has a particular kind of meaning or connotation around it. They speak to different aspects of one's life. So, for example, each suit represents something different. Wands kind of represent a person's passions. The cups represents a person's emotional capacity and things like that. So, those are the 4 suits, and then in addition to those 4 suits, there are the major arcana. Those represent larger life changes or kind of bigger concepts or bigger events in the course of one's life. So, for instance, there's like the Fool, which is the very first one. It kind of represents a person's birth and kind of entrance into the world, and it also can stand in for being almost like naively curious about things in a way that can both energize someone's passions, or it can kind of blind them to what already exists and things like that. So those are the major arcana, right? It's a set of 20-something cards that represent these larger life events that go on through someone's life. So it's a set of playing cards, and then another set of cards in addition to that first set that represent kind of major things in a person's life. These cards took on various meanings, and I've gone over some of them just now, but that's what the tarot is mostly used for these days, is to take these various connotations and meanings that each card has and represents and apply them to a person's life, whether it be through divination, like future telling, or just as a way to experience or think about one's life differently, or like have a different structure through which to think about your own life. I'm not super into the idea of divination when it comes to tarot. My tarot decks are mostly for meaning making. Because all of these cards have kind of certain connotations and represent various aspects of one's life, but they don't have any kind of prescriptive judgments when it comes to this is what you should be doing, or this is exactly what this card means for a person's life. Tarot, it can be very open-ended, and so when I do my tarot practice, essentially, it's mostly to give myself a way to connect various things in my life that I wouldn't expect to be connected. Because it's all open-ended, it is very subjective, it's very personal, and it's not prescriptive. And I get to bring my own experiences to these decks and my own experiences to like any readings that I do for myself. How does this work, right? Essentially, most people with tarot do these things called readings. The readings can be as simple as literally just shuffling the deck and drawing one card, or it can be as complex as doing an entire Celtic cross, which is, I think, like 16 cards in this very complex pattern. But at its most basic form, tarot is essentially just taking this deck, right, which has, and this one is the seventh sphere deck that I got off of Labyrinthos, the app. I like it a lot. So, but at its most basic form, tarot, it consists of a reading, which is essentially a way that you pull cards that make the cards mean different things based on the order that they're pulled. So the most common reading that people do is like a past, present, future reading. So if I were to take my deck and say that this was shuffled correctly and I didn't just use it, so I would pull one card that would be for the past, and so this King of Cups represents an aspect of my past that I can think about, and then this one is the Ten of Cups, which represents the present, and so this has something to do with what the present means for me, and then the future would be, I pulled this reverse, so I'll leave it at that. The future would be this Three of Pentacles, right? And so this spread here creates some kind of meaning in my life based off of what the connotations of each of these cards is. So I haven't memorized all of these, so I'm just going to quickly look these up. So the King of Cups represents some kind of like control and balance in my life, right? So that maybe is in the past, right? That represents a past experience that I've had. And then moving to the present, maybe the Ten of Cups represents a kind of like peace and contentment, some kind of like fulfillment in my life. So maybe that means like I've completed some project, or I'm just like feeling good about where my station is, or my relationships with people, right? So that maybe that's where I am right now. And then the Three of Pentacles represents my future, and this this Three of Pentacles has something to do with like teamwork and collaboration and building. So with this spread, right? You can kind of, you know, maybe the you can, with this spread, you can build a kind of narrative around what these cards are, right? Maybe I'm asking about like, oh, and really quick, each reading involves asking the deck a question, right? I mean, it can be something as simple as like, what lies in store for me, or what should I think about this relationship that I have with someone? Is it a bad one? Is it a good one? Whatever. And so maybe I've asked the deck something about like, oh, I wonder what my relationships with my friends are going to be like. And so with this spread, you can kind of construct a narrative around that question, right? So let's say that this was about my friends, right? I've just moved back to San Diego, so, you know, I you know, am wondering where my friends are in this, what happened with them, and like what my state is and how I should treat them, and, you know, think about them. So my past is this sense of like balance, and this sense of compassion, right? This maturity of being, that's where I was with my friends. Now that I've come back in my present, right, this Ten of Cups maybe represents a piece that I've had with like maybe losing them because I moved away for a while, and now I've come back, and maybe the Ten of Cups represents like the acceptance of Some of them have moved on, some of them haven't, but I'm like content with where I am in my life. And then this Three of Pentacles, because it's some kind of like team building, maybe in the future, now that I've moved back to San Diego, maybe this can call for some sort of reaching out that I should do with my friends, or like some kind of like building new friendships, or like building new communities, or things like that, right? So that's the narrative that's being built by this spread here, is I had a lot of compassion and a lot of balance and passion for my friends, and I got to a good place with them in the past. But when I moved away, I had to become comfortable with the idea that these friendships would change just because of the distance and things like that. And now that I've moved back in the future, I can think about building new friendships or reconnecting with people that I have, essentially creating a different new community out of that. That is the narrative that is coming out of this 3-card spread. And so this is like one of the most basic ones. There's like a number of ways you can conduct these spreads with tarot. The one that I like to do is just it's a daily one where I like leaf through the deck and pick a card that calls out to me, which represents what I came to today with, and then I shuffle the deck and then pull a card randomly, and that represents what I can learn over the course of today, right? So there are all sorts of ways to conduct readings with tarot. All of this is to say tarot is a very unique way to ask yourself questions and think about your life in a way that allows you to connect dots and connect things with each other, make meanings between various aspects of your life that that you might not have thought of before, just because you have this deck of cards and they can draw different things and emotions and events and ideas out of you without you having to consciously pull at them and think through it like in some sort of like isolated sense of like self-reflection. What does this, who cares, right? How does this relate to what I've been doing with music and what this channel is about? And the reason why I wanted to structure my shorts around tarot is because, again, I didn't want to just make YouTube shorts for the sake of making them, right? I wanted them to have some kind of structure to them, and I liked the idea of making individual pads or individual patterns on the M8, but I wanted them to have some kind of like structure and meaning to them. And tarot is really good at creating that meaning, drawing that meaning or structure out of you, and giving you something to bounce off of in a way that allows you to get inspired to make something, right? Kind of in a similar vein to the Oblique Strategies deck by Brian Eno and Peter Schmidt. Tarot allows me to draw these meanings out and create these structures in a way that isn't Oblique Strategies, right? Because Oblique Strategies, I thought, was really good for unsticking you if you're stuck, right? Coming up with new workflows, coming up with new ways to approach creativity. But where I'm at right now, I'm not really worried about my own creativity. I feel like I'm in a good spot with how I can create things and like my ability to just generate things. What I want to do is have some sort of meaning behind those things that I generate, right? So Oblique Strategies is really good for unsticking me, but I'm not stuck right now. I just want the things that I make to mean something, to have some sort of personal relationship to my life, in a way that makes them a little bit more than just patterns on a music device that I own. One of the reasons why I think tarot works well with music is that, when I listen to music or see art or creative work from someone who's relatively new to the game, right? And by the game, I mean not just like new to music or new to writing or new to art. It's someone that's new to the idea of having a creative practice. When people who haven't really formed a creative practice yet make music, it's almost entirely functional, right? And by functional, I mean it serves its purpose based off of what that person wanted it to do, right? I wanted to make a drum and bass track. So this piece of music is a drum and bass track. or I wanted to make a remix of a video game song or whatever. So this is a remix of a video game song. I wanted to use this particular instrument in my song. So this is a song that uses that particular instrument in it. And, you know, you might be asking, why are you just repeating yourself when you're going through the process of creativity with these pieces of music? I'm repeating myself because that's what the pieces of music feel like to me, right? It is a drum and bass track for the sake of having created a drum and bass track. It doesn't mean anything to the person who made it. There were no questions asked about why does this need to exist? Why does it matter that I made it? Why does it matter that it's a drum and bass track? None of that matters outside of I wanted to have created a drum and bass track, and now I created a drum and bass track. And you know, that's really, that process is really valuable for people who are trying to learn the craft of music and trying to get themselves better at creating music in a purely functional manner, right? Navigating a particular software or hardware workflow, creating various parts of the music, laying down percussion tracks or laying down bass lines, coming up with accompanying accompaniments, point and counterpoint melodies, whatever, right? That workflow is really important for someone who is just trying to get better at making music as a whole. But when it comes to that next step, right, what separates just a person who makes drum and bass tracks from a person who is known for bringing their own unique flavor or identity or take on drum and bass, that next step is usually bringing some kind of unique identifying personality or humanity, their own experience to the music, right? So when it comes to like, or the example of a video game remix, right? A video game song remix. Going from, I just made a video game remix because I wanted to remix the song, to I identified this part of the song and I thought that that part was so cool that I wanted to bring it out in a way that wasn't originally there in the original form, right? So these are the questions that are being asked. These are the kinds of like personal experiences that someone brings when they're trying to step away from just making music for the sake of making music into, I'm making music because I have something that I think I need to express that's different from everyone else. And, you know, that process can be really difficult and it can be a very long process. It's why I talk so much about ritualizing your creativity and making it so that creativity is something that you are very actively engaged in every time you do it, right? It's a long process because it's hard to learn how to, one, just think about yourself and think about what you bring to the table. Think about experiences that you've had in the past, or like why your relationship with this music. It's hard to just even do that kind of self-reflection at all, right? And then two, it's you know, as hard as it is to even do that self-reflection, now you have to do that self-reflection and then bring it into that new piece of music that you're trying to make, right? You have to do the self-reflection, take whatever nuggets of wisdom that you grabbed from it, and then translate that into some kind of musical idea or something that you can use in a piece of music, right? And then put that into the piece of music and then execute on it in a way that like works for all of the, you know, works for everyone involved. And so that is the creative process. That is, it takes a long time. It takes a lot of like thinking, not just like working on the craft of music, but working on yourself and thinking about why you want to make music, your relationship with music, the contexts of music that existed, right? Like techno, right? It, you know, started in Detroit, a response to Motown, and Motown being this like really almost like a factory line for like soul and funk and R&B, and then techno being this like complete rejection of tradition, wanting to create its own Afrofuturist tradition, right? contexts like that. These are the things that people draw on when they want to make music that isn't just pastiche, right? That isn't just something for the sake of having created it. It's something that is saying, a piece of music that is saying something unique, saying something that will resonate to people. When it comes to any kind of creative work or any kind of creative practice, that process of self-reflection and then taking that self-reflection and bringing it out into some sort of artistic form, that's difficult. That is the work, right? So that's kind of what I want this channel to be about, and kind of why I think tarot is so valuable to the process of creativity. Because when we talk about what's difficult about you know, doing the self-reflection and then itemizing it and abstracting it in a way that allows you to transfer it into some different kind of form, tarot is already doing that for you, right? Tarot is taking all of these different, like, kind of generalizable life experiences and then you almost, you know, you're doing the self-reflection, but it's self-reflection with a prompt, right? It's self-reflection with a guiding structure that makes it so that you're not just sitting in your chair thinking about your life, right? Because that's kind of a weird thing to do to get inspired to make something, right? You just want to boot your DAW up or like turn on your synth and start making something. So tarot takes that kind of self-reflection process and takes it away from yourself, right? Puts it outside of your mind in a way that gets you in a mood to think about it, think about your own life experiences in a different way. So that process, that difficult process of self-reflection, is made easier when you use tarot, right? The reason this is so valuable isn't just because it's like it externalizes this act of self-reflection. It also allows you to bring yourself to the table, right? The tarot is not prescriptive enough to be something for everyone, right? It's almost entirely reliant on your own process, your own experiences, your own identity. If I pull a card, right, looking at the pentacles means like material possessions, right? And so material possessions means something totally different to me than it does to you. It can't really be the same thing. And my interpretation of whatever this card is just going to be different than what you interpret this card is, because our lives are different. And so while it makes it difficult to talk about tarot in a generalizable way, it makes it very valuable as a tool for honing and making your own creative process more effective for making art and things like that. So that's why I think the tarot is super, super valuable, and that's why I think it like ties really well with music as well. It's kind of oblique strategies for your life, right? It's a little bit of taking this act of self-reflection and externalizing it in a way that is unique to you, and then giving you the ability to take whatever you're interpreting, whatever narrative that is coming out of the spread that you're creating, and giving you the ability to take this abstract form and then put it into some sort of artistic work, right? And so that's going to be the format that these shorts take. You know, kind of getting to the point of the video. I'm not going to overpromise and say I'm going to do this like every day or anything. I'm going to shoot for once a week, and we'll see how that goes. If it turns out I can't do it every week, I might release them less frequently, or if I have enough time and energy to do them more, then I'll release them more frequently. But the format of these is going to be the same. In each short, I'm going to, you know, film myself doing a one card reading, essentially. So picking, oh man, I didn't shuffle this very well. I managed to. Doing a one card reading, and I'll pull the card and then I'll display what the connotations and the meanings of this card is. I'll do a short explanation of like my interpretation of the card, and then I'll film myself going through the process of making either a lemon drop pad that's based on what my interpretation of the card is, or a TECHNO pattern on the Dirty Wave M8 that is also based off of the interpretation of what the card is. Hopefully that will all be able to be condensed into a short, and then I'll upload those every week onto YouTube. And what this will help me do is both show to you a little bit more of my creative process and give me a way to make techno patterns that aren't just like random things that I needed to, that I wanted to make just for the sake of making them. So yeah, that's basically it. Hopefully this made sense to you. Hopefully this is interesting to you. I want to kind of put out a caveat that I am not a professional when it comes to tarot, but I'm not a very skilled tarot person, so if I get anything wrong with this, my bad. And also, it's okay. And you know, so and hopefully this was interesting to you, and hopefully this kind of gives you a way to think about your own creativity. And yeah, that's basically it for the video. If you are interested in this and want to kind of pick my brain or pick other people's brains about what tarot is and what it means, I'll leave a couple of links in the description, and feel free to comment about if you have any questions about what I do with tarot and what this is and things like that. I have to do the obligatory like, share, and subscribe because this is YouTube. And yeah, thanks for watching. I will get to those track breakdowns very soon once we're all feeling 100%. I think we're at like 90% right now. So track breakdowns soon. Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys later.